After many years of observing how the human body changes with age, one thing has become very clear to me. Aging after 80 is not just a slower version of what came before. It is a shift, a transition, almost like the body enters a new phase of operation. For most of life, changes happen gradually. You notice them year by year, a little less energy, a little more stiffness, a little more rest needed. But after 80, the body does something different. It begins to reorganize itself. Researchers have noticed this as well, not as a sudden breakdown, but as a series of internal adjustments that affect how different systems function together. Muscles behave differently. The brain processes information differently. Even sleep follows new patterns. What is important to understand is this: these changes are not a sign that something has gone wrong. They happen in almost everyone who reaches this age. The difference is how early they are noticed and how well they are supported. Some of these changes can actually help the body adapt. Others, if ignored, can slowly reduce comfort, stability, and independence. That is why awareness matters. In this video, I want to walk you through 5 common transformations that many people experience after 80, not to alarm you, not to label anything as dangerous, but to help you recognize what your body may be communicating and how to respond thoughtfully. One of these signs is so subtle that it is often overlooked entirely. Yet it plays a major role in sleep quality, daily energy, and mental clarity. Before we begin, I want to be very clear about something. Everything shared here is meant to help you observe patterns and ask better questions. If changes feel sudden, severe, or concerning, it is always wise to discuss them with a qualified professional who can look at your individual situation in detail. Now let us begin with a change that affects something very simple, something we often take for granted every single day. Sign number 5. Food begins to lose its flavor and eating feels different. Many people notice this gradually. Meals feel less enjoyable. Favorite foods no longer taste the way they used to. Coffee feels weaker. Fruit feels less sweet. Spices seem muted. This is not about becoming picky. And it is not just about appetite. Over time, the tiny sensory structures on the tongue that help detect flavor naturally change. These structures are constantly renewing themselves throughout most of life. But as the body ages, that renewal slows down. Instead of being replaced quickly, fewer new sensory cells take their place. The surface of the tongue becomes smoother. Signals sent to the brain become weaker. Taste is also closely connected to saliva. Saliva plays a key role in carrying flavor molecules to where they can be detected. As saliva production decreases with age, flavor perception becomes even softer. What many people do not realize is that taste is not just about enjoyment. It is also a safety system. Flavor helps you notice when food is spoiled. It helps detect bitterness that signals something should not be consumed. It helps regulate how much salt or sugar feels satisfying. When flavor becomes muted, the body often tries to compensate without you realizing it. People may add more salt, more sugar, larger portions, not because they want to, but because the same satisfaction no longer arrives naturally. Over time, this can quietly affect balance inside the body. Not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually. Another important piece of this change involves smell. Smell contributes far more to flavor than most people realize. When smell sensitivity decreases, food can feel almost flat, even if the tongue is still working. This combination can also influence appetite. Some people begin eating less simply because meals no longer feel rewarding. This can slowly lead to lower energy and reduced nutrient intake without obvious warning signs. What makes this change easy to miss is that it feels harmless. It feels like a normal inconvenience. but it is actually a signal worth paying attention to. If you notice food becoming less appealing, I recommend observing patterns. Which foods still feel enjoyable, which feel bland, whether appetite has changed over time. Small notes like these can be very helpful during conversations with a healthcare provider or nutrition specialist. There are also gentle ways to support this system, focusing on food texture, using herbs instead of excess salt, staying well hydrated, making meals visually appealing. These small adjustments can make a meaningful difference. When flavor changes, it is not your body failing. It is your body asking for support in a quieter way. But this is only the beginning. There is another transformation that happens deeper, right at the surface of the body, and it affects protection and recovery in ways many people do not expect. Sign number 4. The skin repairs itself more slowly and differently. As people move past 80, many notice something subtle at first. A small scratch seems to stay visible longer. A bruise appears without a clear memory of how it happened. Skin feels thinner, more delicate. This is not just about appearance. It reflects a deeper shift in how the body manages repair. Earlier in life, the skin followed very clear instructions. When something damaged the surface, specialized cells responded quickly. They arrived in the right order, rebuilt tissue step by step, and restored balance almost automatically. With advanced age, this process becomes less organized. The skin still tries to repair itself, but the coordination is not as precise as it once was. Signals move more slowly. Some cells arrive late. Others do not receive clear guidance about what to produce and when. This can result in healing that feels uneven. A small mark may linger longer than expected. Areas that were once resilient now feel fragile. Another factor is circulation. Blood vessels that nourish the skin naturally change over time. When circulation is reduced, fewer nutrients and less oxygen reach the surface layers. Repair still happens, but at a gentler pace. Collagen, the protein that gives skin strength and structure, also becomes less abundant. This does not mean the skin stops protecting you. It simply means it needs more patience and support. What often goes unnoticed is how easily this change is dismissed. Many people assume slower healing is something to ignore. They accept it as normal and move on. But slow repair is a message. It is the body saying it needs better conditions to do its work. Hydration becomes more important. Nutrition plays a larger role. Gentle movement supports circulation. Even regular exposure to natural daylight can help activate repair processes in the skin. Another important point is awareness. Paying attention to how long it takes for the skin to recover helps you notice patterns. If something that once healed in days now takes weeks, that information matters. Supporting the skin after 80 is not about reversing time. It is about creating the best environment for the body to work with what it has. When the skin struggles to recover, it is not failing. It is adapting with fewer resources and asking for thoughtful care. And while this change is visible on the surface, the next transformation happens quietly every single night, inside the brain, affecting something we rely on more than we realize. Sign number 3. Sleep timing shifts and nights feel unpredictable. Many people after 80 say something like this: "I feel tired earlier than I used to. I wake up long before sunrise. I nap without planning to." This is not about poor habits or lack of discipline. It is about how the brain keeps time. For decades, the body followed an internal schedule, a rhythm that guided sleep, wakefulness, temperature, digestion, and energy. This rhythm responded to light, darkness, and routine. After 80, that timing system often becomes less precise. Light entering the eyes sends weaker signals to the brain. The structures responsible for keeping time do not communicate as strongly as they once did. The result is a rhythm that drifts. Sleep may arrive earlier in the evening. Waking may happen in the middle of the night. Daytime alertness may come and go in waves. This does not mean sleep is broken. It means the internal clock is losing calibration. What makes this important is that sleep timing affects more than rest. It influences hormone release, body temperature, appetite, mental clarity. When the rhythm becomes inconsistent, different systems fall out of sync. The body may feel alert when it should be resting and sluggish when it should be active. One of the most important functions of deep sleep is mental cleanup. During restful sleep, the brain clears byproducts of daily activity. When sleep becomes fragmented, this process becomes less efficient. That is why stable sleep patterns are closely tied to mental sharpness later in life. What many families miss is that this shift is biological, not behavioral. Telling someone to just sleep longer or stay awake later does not solve the problem. Instead, gentle structure helps. Morning light exposure sends a strong signal to the brain. Evening dimness allows the body to slow down naturally. Consistent meal timing reinforces the internal schedule. Calm routines before bed support smoother transitions. Keeping a simple sleep journal for a couple of weeks can reveal patterns that are otherwise easy to overlook. Noting when sleepiness appears, when sleep actually happens, and how daytime energy feels can be very useful. When sleep feels irregular, it is not weakness. It is the brain asking for clearer signals. But even deeper than sleep, there is a transformation happening that affects movement, stability, and confidence in daily life. Sign number 2. Muscle strength quietly fades, even without obvious warning. After 80, many people begin to notice small changes in how their body responds to movement. Standing up from a chair requires a bit more focus. Carrying everyday items feels heavier than it once did. Balance feels less automatic. This change does not arrive suddenly. It builds slowly, often without clear moments you can point to. Inside the body, muscle tissue is constantly being broken down and rebuilt. For most of life, this process stays in balance. What is broken down is replaced. Strength remains relatively stable. With advanced age, that balance shifts. The body still breaks down muscle tissue, but it becomes less efficient at rebuilding it. Hormonal signals that once supported muscle maintenance become quieter. Protein from muscle is redirected to support essential organs. This does not mean the body is giving up. It means it is prioritizing survival. The result is gradual loss of strength and power, not necessarily weight loss. Muscles can shrink while body weight stays the same. That is why this change is easy to miss. Muscles do much more than move the body. They help regulate blood sugar. They support posture. They send constant feedback to the brain about where the body is in space. As muscle mass decreases, balance becomes less precise. Movements require more attention. The brain receives weaker signals from the body, making coordination feel less natural. What often happens is quiet compensation. People use furniture for support, they avoid stairs, they stop doing movements that feel uncertain. Family members help more without realizing what is being lost underneath. This is not laziness, it is adaptation. The encouraging part is that muscles remain responsive even after 80. They may respond more slowly, but they do respond. Gentle resistance movement sends a powerful message to the body. It tells the system that muscle is still needed. Even light strength work a few times a week can improve stability and confidence. Protein also becomes more important. Many older adults eat less protein than their body needs to maintain muscle tissue. Spreading protein intake evenly across meals helps support rebuilding. Movement does not need to be intense to be effective. Slow, controlled actions, standing exercises, simple resistance using body weight. These are enough to stimulate muscle signals. When strength fades, it is not a permanent loss. It is a conversation between the body and its environment, and that conversation can be guided. But the final transformation happens in a place we cannot see at all. It affects thinking, memory, and how experiences are processed. Sign number 1. The brain begins adapting its pathways after 80. The brain continues to change, not by stopping, but by adjusting. Over time, some of the pathways that once transmitted information quickly become less efficient. Signals still move, but they may take longer routes. To adapt, the brain begins forming alternative connections. It reroutes information around areas that no longer function as smoothly. This process allows thinking to continue, but often at a different pace. You may notice moments where a thought slips away and then returns later. A familiar name takes longer to surface. Concentration comes in waves rather than staying constant. These experiences are not necessarily signs of loss. They are signs of adaptation. The brain is choosing which functions to prioritize. Emotional memory, recognition, and social awareness often remain strong. Analytical speed may slow, but understanding and insight can deepen. This is why many people later in life show remarkable clarity about values, relationships, and meaning, even as processing speed changes. However, adaptation comes with occasional misfires. The brain may feel foggy at times. Focus may fluctuate. Mental energy may vary day to day. What matters is the pattern. Adaptation creates variability. Some days feel sharp, others feel slower. Engagement and stimulation often improve clarity. Mental activity continues to shape the brain even after 80. Conversations, reading, learning small new skills. All of these support new connections. The brain does not need to stay the same. It needs to stay active. When changes in thinking appear, it is helpful to notice whether they fluctuate. Variability often suggests adaptation rather than decline. Supporting the brain means staying mentally involved without pressure. Curiosity matters more than performance. What to do next? If you recognize several of these signs in yourself or someone close to you, there is no need for alarm. Awareness is the first step. I recommend writing down what you notice, when changes began, how often they appear, what seems to help or worsen them. This kind of observation brings clarity to conversations with professionals who can look at the full picture. While waiting for guidance, focus on what supports the body naturally. Regular movement, adequate protein, consistent light exposure, mental engagement. These actions support adaptation rather than resistance. Aging after 80 is not about decline alone. It is about reorganization. The body is still working, still adjusting, still responding. Understanding these transformations allows you to work with your body instead of feeling confused by it. What these changes really mean. When you look at all 5 of these transformations together, an important pattern becomes clear. After 80, the body is not simply wearing out, it is reorganizing. Taste changes to conserve energy. Skin repairs more carefully to avoid waste. Sleep shifts as the brain recalibrates timing. Muscles reduce themselves to support vital systems. The brain rewires to preserve what matters most. None of this happens randomly. Each change reflects a system making decisions with fewer resources, choosing adaptation over efficiency. The problem arises when these messages go unnoticed, when fading flavor leads to poor nutrition, when slow healing is ignored, when disrupted sleep is dismissed, when muscle loss is accepted without response, when cognitive changes are misunderstood. Awareness changes everything, not because it stops aging, but because it allows you to respond wisely instead of passively. How to respond without fear. If you recognize several of these signs, the most important thing to do is not to panic and not to ignore them. Start by observing, write things down, notice patterns instead of isolated moments. Then bring that clarity into conversations with professionals who can look at your full situation and guide you appropriately. At the same time, focus on what you can influence every day. Support your body with enough protein and hydration. Move your muscles regularly, even gently. Expose yourself to morning light. Create calm, consistent routines. Keep your mind engaged through conversation, learning, and curiosity. These are not extreme measures. They are signals of cooperation with your biology. A perspective worth holding on to. Reaching your 80s and beyond means your body has already succeeded in countless ways. The fact that it continues to adapt proves that it is still working for you. Slower does not mean weaker. Different does not mean broken. Change does not mean failure. It means your body is doing what it has always done best, adjusting to survive and function as well as possible. A final thought. If this video helped you recognize patterns you had not connected before, I encourage you to reflect on which of these signs you have noticed most. Your experience matters. Sharing observations can help others feel less alone and more informed. If you found this information useful, consider staying with us. This channel is dedicated to thoughtful, calm, and practical guidance for later life, designed to support clarity, independence, and confidence. And if someone you care about is over 80, sharing this video may help them understand their own body with more compassion and less confusion. Awareness is not about fear, it is about alignment. Thank you for spending this time with me.